see just a few of you, so I don't see everyone who's attending. But if you haven't already, I would ask that you type your name and who you work for in the chat. That way, everyone knows, oh, these are the people who are attending today. So if you need to reach out to someone, if you want to know more about who they work for, what they do, you have that information. But I would like to start with welcoming everyone. I'm excited to see you all. We had an in-person meeting last month, and it was very relaxed. It was very informal, and I think it was very beneficial too. We lots of good conversation, and just it felt like, for me, it felt like I got to know people on a different level, and that's always a good thing.
But I heard it was
So,
also very caloric too, right?
yes, it was. Yes, it was. We had lots of good food. Alexa brought some fantastic homemade quiche. Yeah, that's what it's all about. If you can meet your carb quota for the day at breakfast, why not? Just knock it out. Just knock it out. Um, So I will go ahead and get us started because this topic is extremely interesting, and I think you all will find it to be so. So what we're going to do today, we're going to cover effective listening, empathetic listening. It's extremely important for all of us, and just in daily life, in the workplace, it's critical not only with our customers or clients, but also with our colleagues. So it's something that I think impacts everyone in a very personal way, whether workplace or just daily life. Then around 10:20, we'll stop for announcements, and that'll be your opportunity to share anything that you have going on that the partners would benefit from learning about. It could be something that they could attend. It could be an activity for the community, but that's your opportunity to share any information you have. And finally, we'll talk about what we're looking at for October. And it seems crazy that we're even talking about October. It's just turned September. But that's what we're looking at today. And we will start, we're going to dive in with hearing versus listening. A lot of people think hearing and listening are the same thing. What are the differences?
Hearing
I
is just, you hear things all the time. You hear sounds, you hear people talking and things like that. Listening is when you actually pay attention and you focus on the person's that's saying something.
Excellent. Excellent, Dan. Alexa, what were you going to add something?
I would similar to what he was saying. Just I feel like whenever you're hearing someone, whether it be maybe in a disagreement or conflict, you're not open to or receptive to, always the communication or the topic that whatever it may be that they're expressing. But whenever you're truly listening, your body language shows, your eye contact, all the like nonverbal communication is there. You're truly like allowing yourself to be open and you're being receptive to what that person is saying. But when you're hearing, you're closed off, you're non-verbally communicating to that person that you're not listening. And it
Right,
shows.
right. And you and Dan both touched on a lot of key components. Hearing is the physical reception of sounds. It's like the sound waves and your eardrum, and I don't know the specifics. I'm not a scientist, but it is the physical process. So right now I am hearing my washing machine in the distance. I'm hearing the sound of my own voice. I'm hearing all these different things. Listening is interpreting those sounds and taking meaning from those sounds. Sometimes we understand through listening. Sometimes we're really trying, but we are gaining meaning from the sounds that we hear. So listening is really focused, and it is about interpretation. What do those sounds mean to you? And we're also going to explore how you listen with more than one body part, because that is a real thing. And that's a key part of empathetic listening.
Leslie, I got to make a funny here. It's Amy.
Yes,
My,
please.
my husband has selective hearing, so yeah, so we can say that that's one of the options too.
Yes,
I'm just
yes.
kidding. I
And
had to make a funny. I just thought that was funny.
well, and lots of people do. Lots of people do, and I'm glad you said that, Amy. When I was growing up, my mom was notorious for just, she was a big nagger. Just, oh, you need to do this, and it's sort of like a droning sound, and you just start tuning it out. And she would be giving us various instructions, and my father and I got to where we would say okay, say all right, because we picked up on, oh, she's saying something, just give her some acknowledgement so she'll stop giving us these directions. But yes, selective hearing is a thing for sure. So I'm going to throw some facts out at you, and I would like to get your thoughts on these. Here's the first one. Whoops. Nope, that's not it. I jumped ahead. All right. Here's the first one. Listening is often ranked as the most important job skill by employers. What are your thoughts?
1000% agree with that, especially in my field, because when we're working with a new client, we really have to the common theme is get on their level, but we really have to listen and understand the barriers that they're facing in order to assist them in getting on the track to prosperity. So for me and what I do, it's like a tie between active listening skills and empathy for people.
Yes, 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 and it's critical. I mean, we've all been in situations where maybe as the customer or consumer, we've been in situations where the person that we're trying to communicate is not listening to us. And what does that feel like? If we're talking a critical issue and someone is not listening to us.
I think it's how you deliver, because people don't like being talked at. They like having dialogue and talked with. So that's one thing I had to learn, Amy, in being a husband and understanding that I do have selective hearing is when my wife is talking at me, I kind of tune it out. But when we're having dialogue and we're talking back and forth, and I can see that she's active listening to what I say and not thinking about her response, then the conversations get a little better.
Yes, yes. So listening, whether, and it's difficult to say if it's the number one most important job skill. If it's not the most important job skill, it is up there near the very top. No matter what your role is. Even if someone's role is being on their computer all day, they have to listen, they have to pay attention, they have to interpret meaning from what is happening around them. So, very important. The next one, and I don't know why I keep doing that, but here we go. I'm just keeping everybody on their toes. Next fast fact. 96% of people believe themselves to be good listeners. What problems do you see with that? If we all think we're good listeners, Is that
There-
something I'm going to practice every day?
There's no
No,
need to
no.
improve.
Yes, exactly. 96% of people think about 96 out of 100 think they're good listeners. And the average person within 10 minutes of receiving information, they only retain about 25% of it. So there's a huge disconnect. People think they're good listeners, but the statistics show that we aren't retaining information. Most of us don't retain lots of information from interactions. It is, so there's a huge disconnect. People think they're good listeners and they really aren't. And a lot of it comes down to most people think listening is just being silent, and it's not. It's not being silent. And the majority of people have difficulty being silent. And what I mean by that, okay, I'm going to get this down before this is, I don't know if y'all can see my little arrow. Okay. All right. So, golly. All right. In everyday conversation, back to my point, most people have problems being silent. In everyday conversation, we're typically interrupted 2 times every 3 minutes of speaking. Approximately, I've seen some statistics show on average that in conversation, like just everyday conversation, not a presentation or anything like that, we are interrupted approximately every 17 seconds. What does that do for communication? If I'm interrupted, it throws me off. I lose my place. I'm like, where was I? I get flustered. Y'all saw with me trying to juggle these arrows. Any kind of interruption, it puts a wrench in the communication flow. And I'm going to throw another statistic out at you. In the medical profession, doctors typically are the worst at interrupting. When a doctor comes into a room and the patient begins describing symptoms, they typically are interrupted within the first 6 seconds. What are your thoughts on that?
I have a doctor friend whose excuse for that is that if he doesn't interrupt, then he will never get through his day. That he said there are only, there aren't that many things that they could be saying. I can usually anticipate what they're about to say, and if I don't try to speed them through their speech, then I'm gonna fall so far behind I'll never get through the day. So that's their excuse.
I
But
can,
it's very frustrating for the patient.
my husband's sister and brother are both doctors, and they have said the same thing, similar to what Shannon just said.
Is there a happy medium? I mean, and I think, yes, doctors have to get through patients to a certain extent. But from my experience, when you are in a medical crisis and you are not being listened to, that, I had, and most of you know this, I had like a couple screws in my skull that were penetrating into the dura of my brain. I mean, I could have been gone any second. And I went to the emergency room twice. And I was describing, it felt like, because these screws were pressing on nerve endings, it felt like a knife a hot knife was it going through the top of my skull. And that's what I kept trying to describe. There's something going on, with my skull. There's something, and it was hardware from a previous surgery that was in there that was causing this crazy physical pain. And I know that lots of people go to the ER for migraines, and I think that was sort of the assumption. It was obvious that this was a real experience, and thank goodness I was connected with a physician that took the time to investigate, because that my life could have been over at that point. And it all came down to someone listening, someone paying attention to, here's what the patient is saying. She is in obvious distress. We need to look beyond the obvious assumption. So yes, listening is so important, and empathetic listening even more so. I was trying to think of, hey, how can I communicate what empathetic listening is? And what I kept coming back to, because it is more, it's not just paying attention. It is actually trying to put yourself into the speaker's shoes and feel what they're feeling. It's not sympathy. It is trying to, this is what this person is going through. And I believe the three key areas, at least in my opinion, are listening with your eyes, listening with your ears, and listening with your heart. Those are key components to empathetic listening. And when we're dealing with customers, when we're working with clients, that is so important. Now, this is one of my absolute favorite photos. This is me back in, I believe it was 1974. This is on the lawn at Western Kentucky University, and that's my dad. And we were at an outdoor concert, and well, I'll just ask you all, what do you see? What do you see in this photo?
It looks like to me you're in the process of speaking to your dad. He is really engaged with you. He looks like he's very attentive and he's leaned in to what you're saying. He's really trying to listen and be close to you because he wants to effectively hear whatever it is that you're trying to communicate to him in that moment, and it looks just like a really wholesome moment. And so he just looks like a dad that's really just trying to be close and be attentive and listening. You can see that that's conveyed through the photo, and you can tell you're really comfortable in your body language as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
Because you're just sitting there having a good time, and you're
Yeah.
you could tell you're in the middle of a sentence. So that's kind of what I got from it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it looks
And
like
Chad, oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Chad.
I was just going to say it looks like he's trying to hear what you're saying and see what you're seeing and experience what you're experiencing. To me, it looks like
Yes.
he's trying to get as close to your experience as he can.
Yes. Yes. And he was just a fantastic person. I try to be as much like him as possible, because he was a fantastic listener. A lot after he passed away, so many people told me he always made me feel important. And I think one of the key things was he was a very engaged and respectful listener. he always tried to give people his full attention. And that's what this photo's about. Chad can probably tell you that, I am very similar to that right now. I mean, I still use my hands a lot. I still, I get very animated and very excited. And so to have someone key into that and engage with you, and it's also someone who you love deeply, oh my goodness, it makes so much difference. When we're listened to, we feel loved and we feel respected. And I can't stress enough how important it is to try to improve how we respond to others through listening. It can only be a good thing, you know. Before we go to the next slide, any thoughts on what we've talked about thus far?
That's a great picture.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's one of my absolute favorites. Absolutely. All right, so we'll start with listening with the eyes. Listening with the eyes, that's what you just did, in fact. The photo that I just showed you, I asked you all to interpret meaning from that photo. And so you were keying in. Alexa talked about, body language, facial expression. Shannon went so far as almost like the gaze, like he was trying to see what I was seeing. I may have been describing something to him. So listening with the eyes is extremely important. You can tell so much about someone with visual cues, whether it's, how they walk into a room, what kind of gestures they use, what kind of facial expressions they're showing. And people trust visual cues much more than the words that we say. If someone said, "Hey, Leslie, how's it going?" and I said, "Oh, it's great," you're not going to believe my words because the visuals contradicted. So nonverbal communication with listening, it is so important. And we could go on for days, weeks about nonverbal and how powerful it is with listening. But I'm trying to distill it down to a few key concepts on listening with the eyes. So
Hey, Leslie.
yes.
I get that a lot and Brittany will know too. I get that a lot with my inmates. Like if an inmate's talking to me, they're very like, "Are you listening?" Because if I'm getting in my backpack trying to get out stuff, and they want that eye contact, because they have a trust issues anyway, and I get
Yes.
that. So they're very much like they want me to pay close attention to what they're saying to me, and I know Brittany sees that when she's with me at the jail too. So.
Yes, and I think, and Amy, that's an excellent point. I think that goes hand in hand with respect and trust. And when working with inmates in particular, they may have not had a lot of respect in the past. There may not be a lot of trust. So one of the ways that you can start earning that from the get-go is, and you said it at the very first thing, one of the most powerful ways you can do that is in maintaining eye contact. Now, you never want to get into a staring contest with someone. No, you don't want to do that. But there is something very, very powerful about looking someone in the eye. When, and we don't use it often enough. Eye contact, it it can lower blood pressure when it's done the right way, because what's it saying? It's saying you are the most important thing right now. I am engaged with you. I am looking at you. My focus is on you. And eye contact, it is one of the fastest ways to engage people. I taught public speaking for years. And, I would have people say, oh, I can't look at people in the face when I'm speaking. I'll look at the tops of their heads, that shows. That shows. Even if you're speaking to a group of people, a big room of people, eye contact is extremely important because it is a sign of respect. At least in our culture, in American culture, it's a sign of respect. You are giving someone your full attention. And one interesting fact, the more interested, the more engaged we are with someone, the more our pupils dilate. So if we start getting angry, if we don't like somebody, our pupils constrict. And it's not something we can do on command, but it has to do with the body and the body calming down. But subconsciously, we pick up on people. We see if someone is really engaged with us. We've talked about this quite a lot. It's not just eye contact, it's paying attention to nonverbal signals. They're extremely powerful and telling. When you are interacting with a customer, with a client, with a colleague, posture is huge. The more open someone is with their posture, the more open they are to communication. And what I mean by this is if someone is upset, if someone disagrees with what you're saying, if they're frustrated, we automatically start closing our body off. This isn't something that we think, oh, I'm going to start doing this now. No, it happens naturally. And we do things like, I'm crossing my arms. I am like drawing into myself, and that happens naturally. So one of the easy things you can do is start being more aware just of your posture. When you're speaking with someone, the more open you are, the more receptive they will be to your communication. If you have anything in your hands, whether it's a phone, whether it's a notebook, this is a barrier. This is a block. You want to set it down. Set all your crap down. Do not touch your phone. Do not touch anything. You don't need any prompts. If you have to take notes, that's one thing. But again, keeping your body open, that is a subconscious tool that will help you immediately. Facial expression, that's another one. And those of you who have worked with me for a while know, I have an extremely bad case of RBF, which, I'll just say resting bad face for, it's bad, guys. It's bad. And I've always had it, but due to all the tightness in my neck, it makes it so much worse. And if I'm walking around like a store or whatever, I'll look like I'm on a rampage. People will be like, what, is everything okay? Yeah, I'm just walking around. I'm just looking, at these antiques. And it's because my facial expression. So that is something I constantly try to be conscious of. I know, it's not indicative of my mood. it's a physical thing, but I try to work at that because I know people will think, oh, she's hateful. Why would I want to talk to her? She's got a problem. But open posture is huge. If you're facing in the direction of the speaker, that's huge. We tend to turn our bodies in the direction of the people we're most comfortable with. And the example I always think of is if you're at the movies and you're sitting with a friend and they're to your right, and a stranger comes and sits to your left, what do? You immediately turn your body towards your friend because it's like, you're most comfortable with this person. People usually feel more at ease if they're communicating side by side rather than across a table. These are very subtle ways of making people feel more comfortable. And finally, give visual signals to the speaker that you are paying attention. What are some obvious ones?
Leslie, I always say that you have to relax into an attitude of listening. And, I remember so vividly when I learned that lesson was with my grandmother. She was bedfast, bedridden. And when I would go into her room and if I stood beside her bed and she was agitated the whole time because she
Yes.
kept expecting me to leave. And I finally learned that if I could just sit down beside her and relax, that 5 minutes were more beneficial than half an hour of standing beside her
Yes.
because she knew she had my full attention. And, it's all those things that you've talked about. It's the body language, the eye contact, the lack of distractions. If somebody walks into your office, close your laptop and they know that they've got
Yes.
your full attention.
Yes. Yes. Excellent point. And I remember, and I don't have it with me immediately, but I remember a reel that I saw on Instagram, and it was like a motivational speaker, and a kid went up and asked him a question, and it was like a pretty vague question. He could have gone in a lot of different directions with it. But what really got me is as soon as the child walked up, he bent down and got on eye level with that kid. It's like, oh my goodness, taking just a second to do that is so powerful. You all know I love Fred Rogers. Oh my goodness, Mr. Rogers, he was the best. And so much of what he did was about listening to people, showing respect, getting on their level. Mr. Rogers, he always had an open posture. He always was open to communication. So listening with the eyes, in some ways, listening with the eyes is more powerful than listening with the ears. And that's what we're going with next. Listening with the ears, just a few facts. Listen without interrupting or turn taking. That is something that every single person, in this meeting can improve on, myself included. Just like, and Shannon, that was a great example, like relax into listening. Is that what you said? Is that the phrase?
Yeah, relax into an attitude of listening. And
Yes.
I thought you were about to say I gave you a great example of interrupting. Thankfully. Glad you didn't say that.
Good. Well, and I mean, I don't want to give the impression that all interruptions are bad, because sometimes, I mean, I get so excited about whatever's happening or whatever's going on. Like, it's just like, oh, and it's a very engaging, oh, I'm doing this because I'm excited. But we have to, yes, be intentional with, I'm not going to interrupt. I'm not going to interrupt. And I'm not going to think about what I'm going to say in response. I'm going to intentionally pause what's going, my desire to speak so that I can hear what this person is saying fully. And it is about intentionality. So not waiting to take your turn. This isn't like a turn taking. It is more, an opportunity for someone to share their story with you. Again, monitor the speaker's nonverbal communication, and this goes with the auditory level, the tone of voice, the volume, the rate of speech. You can pick up on so much. Those things, even though they are auditory, they're still nonverbal because they are communicating emotion. Like if you see that someone is becoming agitated, and their emotions are becoming escalated, that is something you need to key in on. If someone is becoming upset, those are extremely important, much more important than the person's words themselves. And this is a good one. Echo keywords or phrases back to them. What happens when you do that?
The speaker, it lets the speaker know that you're actively listening and you're hearing what they say, and your feedback is really on point with what they're saying if you repeat something that they've said and then elaborate on with it.
Yes. So if you repeat, it shows that you're listening.
It does a great
And what I just did was exactly what Chad described. Not in a sneaky way, but Chad, I used one of the actual words that you said. And what that does on a subconscious level, Chad knows that she was listening. Leslie was listening to me because she repeated that word back. And I've seen people sort of use this as a party trick, like, oh, repeat the words back, that kind of thing to check, like, oh, I'm just going to keep echoing whatever this person says. You can do that to a degree, but it needs to be genuine. But it is absolutely powerful in showing that you are paying attention. A very good way too is a simple nod. Those are the people. I used to be a tour guide at Mammoth Cave. And some of those tours, it was brutal. You'd have people on vacation after they've been in a car for hours. Oh my goodness. Lots of people weren't paying attention. So when I saw somebody nodding to what I was saying, I was like, those are the people I'm going to talk to because I know they're paying attention to me. It's a visual cue to the speaker. I am with you. It is like almost like you're saying, keep going. Tell me more. It's very simple, very effective. All right, moving on to listening with the heart. Listening with the heart. You all are all excellent at this already because it's your job. You have been drawn to the profession that you're in because you care about people. You have a natural aptitude at doing this. What we're talking about is just, enhancing that even more. Listening with the heart, it starts with empathy first. If you're listening to someone tell you their story, you're not just hearing their story, what I try to do is physically put myself in their story. If I, when I watch movies, I'm thinking, oh, what if I was that person? I can't remember something, I think it was The Pursuit of Happiness, Will Smith. Do you all remember that one? Where he was homeless. I remember he was like sleeping in a bathroom at some point and somebody's beating on the door. And that scene just destroyed me because I had put myself in that position. How would that make me feel if I had nowhere to go? And it's truly about trying to share that person's experience. Like Shannon said so eloquently earlier, my father was trying to see what it was I was looking at. He was trying to adjust his perspective so he could see mine. That's what you're doing with the empathetic listening. You're not just feeling sorry for the person. You're not just, feeling bad for them. You're trying to really put yourself in that position. This is how I would be feeling in that position. And it can change your perspective in such a powerful way because it connects you almost immediately. If you really try to get a grasp on what this person is feeling. Another thing with empathetic listening is acknowledging feelings. It can be as simple as that, that sounds really tough. It's a small statement, but you're picking up on these are the emotions that I'm sensing right now. And probably the most important of all, and this is something that is hard, but people usually don't want advice. People usually don't want advice. They just want to know that you're listening, that you have heard them. Even if they're seeking out advice. So many times, talking through things, they'll be able to see decisions, see choices. And I think a lot of times we feel obligated to say, here's what you should do. Here's, you need to do this, you need to do that. And as people who work with the public, yeah, that's part of our job is guiding people into solutions. But the very first thing that has to happen is you need to communicate to that person, I have heard you. I get a good sense of what you're feeling right now, and I have heard what you're saying. It's like at funeral homes when you go up to the family. So many people are like, I don't know what to say. You really don't need to say a lot. Usually, the physical presence, the fact that you're there, the fact that you show concern, give them the opportunity to speak, that's the most important thing. Our words have power, but listening and connection and empathy have so much more potential power. So these are just a few. I'm just scratching the surface here with empathetic listening, but I think making sure we give people that opportunity to be heard is key. So again, to review, let's talk about Oz. What are ways you remember Oz? What are some key points on listening with your eyes?
Super important to make eye contact with the person you're speaking to. But like you said earlier, don't hold that eye contact too long to make people feel creepy like John does sometimes. But if you make eye contact and then break contact and come back, then that
Yes.
really enforces the fact that I'm listening to you and I really want to hear what you have to say once I finish.
Yes. Yes. I don't know. I don't know if John will respond to that, but but yes. Eye contact. What else with your eyes?
Leslie, I've got a little story about how, I mean, it was so reinforced to me that the importance of eye contact when a few years ago I happened to be in a household where there was a 3-year-old girl and she was showered with affection by, everybody. But what I noticed was that everybody looked at their phones all the time. And so I made a concerted effort every time she spoke to me. I made sure I looked her in the eye and I put down my phone. So we were at the table one day and there was a big debate raging over who loved her the most. Everybody claimed to love her the most, and I wasn't even in the competition. And she stopped everybody and she said, "No, Shannon loves me most." And she looked at me and said, "Don't you, Shannon?" And I said, "I do love you very much, but how do you know that I love you most?" And she thought about it for a few seconds and then she said, "Your eyes." And I knew that it was nothing about my eyes physically. It was that my eyes looked at her when she spoke to me. And I
Yes.
knew right then, it's true. Eye contact it's paramount, especially, I mean, with children.
Yes.
You mentioned that it makes people feel loved and respected. And boy, what a life lesson for me.
Yes. And wasn't that, I mean, what a wonderful thing to hear. That's a fantastic example. But yes, eye contact, when it is genuine, when it is not overdone, you don't want it to go into creepy level, but I mean, my goodness, it shows that you're engaged. It can take a typical interaction and put it in the stratosphere if you just engage in meaningful eye contact. It shows respect. It shows that you're engaged with that person. And along with that, and this is some overlap with ears, is paying attention to nonverbal cues, whether they're visual, whether they're auditory, but that is such a key part of empathetic listening. Don't only listen to the words that they're saying, look at the emotions that are coming out. What are the things they aren't saying? What are you picking up on with their nonverbal communication? For you as someone engaging with customers, with clients, keeping eye contact, keeping an open posture, approaching someone from the side rather than face to face. These things are small skills that wind up having a tremendous impact with an interaction. And finally, listening with the heart. What do you remember with that? That was the last thing we talked about.
Putting yourself in that person's position, being able to, like, as you said, imagine yourself in their story, not just hearing their story, can really allow you to identify those emotions that that person is feeling, and identify the emotions by labeling them, speak them. I can only imagine, you are very frustrated by XYZ, like actually say the emotion so that way they know
Yes.
um what, like, you're hearing them and you're listening to them, and um that you're listening to their situation. I think that that makes a big difference, and I try to do that whenever I speak to callers and such.
Yes.
I've noticed that
Yes.
that definitely changes, because a lot of times people think that nobody's listening. But whenever you're able to sit there and just put yourself in their shoes, identify those emotions, and then just be a presence. Like sometimes
Yes.
people just want to be heard, like you said, and they don't want advice. They just want
Yes.
you to listen. So
It's such a huge sign of respect. You know, if you've ever been in situations where you don't feel seen, you don't feel heard, nobody is noticing that you're even there or what you're experiencing, and to for somebody to stand out and say, "Hey, I noticed you're awful quiet. What's going on?" That is something that can move these interactions to such a more meaningful level. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to be listened to, and we have to make a conscious effort to do that. We have to, it's something that is constantly, there's a constant need to improve in this area. So, what will you remember most about what we've talked about? I've got like 1 minute before time to switch gears to announcements.
um so this I love this topic. I just want to say briefly, especially the statistic where, most people think they're a better listener than they are. I've been told that myself in my own personal life, which has been really just kind of insightful. So it's definitely an opportunity, like you said, we all have our where we need to kind of improve and grow. So I really enjoyed getting the opportunity to be a part of this presentation, and hopefully can take some of this and apply it in both professionally and in my personal life. So thank you.
Oh, good. Absolutely. Thank
I
you.
keep, thank you, Leslie. I keep going back, and I don't know if Brittany was here Tuesday, but I don't know if she heard me talking to one of my new Kentucky Christian Recovery guys and listening with the heart. It kind of, I call it take two. Sometimes if I'm not a very emotional person, but if somebody tells me something, I just say I'm taking two, and everybody knows what that means pretty much. That I'm just going to go for a little walk. Well, he decided. I mean, it was the first time I'd met him, and decided to tell me that he lost his children in a car accident. And I said, "Oh no, I'm so sorry. It was horrible." And so he said that it was his ex-wife had been drinking and driving and killed the two children, died, and she lived. And so the whole entire time that you've been talking about listening with the heart, that's the first thing that came to my mind was this man just pouring his heart out to me. And I was just like, wow. And then he had another baby, a 6-month-old, suffocate. And so he's lost three children. And I mean, I was just like, it was a lot, but I tried my best because I don't have kids, but I cannot imagine losing three children all pretty much at the same time.
Oh,
Yeah, so
oh my
that was listening with
goodness.
the heart. It was gut wrenching. I mean, I had to get up and go for a little small walk to the bathroom and pull it together a little bit, but I tried. I hope I did what he needed me to do. So
Yes. Well, you listen to him. And I mean, think about, I know we can't know everybody's story. I know all of us in this meeting, we all have stories. We all have things that have impacted us personally. But how critical is it that you know that? That's a huge part of who that man is. That is the window where he's seeing life right now. And I mean, will be for the rest of his days. So that's a critical part of understanding who he is. And this
I
stuff
just
is
hope and
not easy.
I just hope and pray that I did okay with him because that was a lot for him and it was just a lot.
Well, and it says a lot about you that he felt comfortable sharing that with you.
Mhm.
I mean, when people share things with us, um, that's a sign that we are doing something right. We're given signals that you can speak to me, you can tell me things. So there's a reason why he told you that. And you were communicating probably without even knowing that, that this is a safe place for you to share this story. And so you listening to him, you did everything you were supposed to do. I can guarantee it. I can guarantee it. So, very good discussion. Very good discussion. Hopefully, you've gotten some good tidbits that you can use. I love talking about this kind of stuff. To me, it's just like it just these are things that we don't get to talk about enough. To me, and it impacts all of us every day. Every day. Something else that impacts us all, announcements. What do you all have going on that we need to know about?
Monday, September 22nd, 8 to 3, Goodwill's having a golf scramble at Crosswind. So if you guys are interested in playing a little golf with Goodwill, and it says Golf for Good with Goodwill Kentucky, let me know and I'll send you the flyer. I think it's $400 a team, but that money goes right back to the Bowling Green Opportunity Center. So we can put that right back into the community. So if anybody's interested, give me a shout, shoot me an email, and I'll send you the flyer.
All right. So Chad's got a golf tournament. Chad, I'm just wondering who came up with that idea for a golf tournament?
I have no idea. We only have one person on our staff that, hold on, let me show you guys something real quick. I don't know how to well, here we go. Let me take this background off. We only have one person on our staff that has hit a hole in one, and here's a little ball that proves that. So we're having the golf scramble at Crosswinds, and I hit a hole in one at Crosswinds this summer on hole number
Yes.
3. I don't know
Yes.
who suggested a golf tournament though.
I don't know. I don't know. But, a hole in one, my goodness, bragging rights for the rest of your life. That does not happen every day. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Chad. And thank you for all your interaction. You really the comments and the thoughts that you bring to light, I mean, they're always right on point. So thank you. Okay, somebody else. Anything else that we need to know about? We got 5 minutes.
I was just going to share with everyone. I'm with United Way of Southern Kentucky, and I would love to reach out to anyone who is interested in joining Connect Resources as a community partner. That is our online platform where you all can join and try to help Kentucky residents in need. It's basically an online directory where individuals and residents can go and get access to resource information. So if you are interested, just drop your email in the chat and I'm happy to reach out. I believe I've already been in contact with Denise, but definitely reach out, drop your contact information, and I would love to send you some more information regarding how to get onboarded. And there are some potential incentives for joining if applicable. So thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much.
I'd like to let everyone know today is the last day for a Pampered Chef fundraiser that Good Samaritan has been doing. We're like $175 from our goal. So if anybody needs any Pampered Chef, I'm going to try to put this, there should be a link. It should go straight to the party that shows. So if anybody needs any Pampered Chef, your wife needs any, I hear the spices are really good. The jar opener works really well for arthritic people. So if you need anything, they have several things under $25, and we could use it to try to make our goal. Today's the last day. So
All right, good deal. Good deal. Denise is doing good stuff. So yes, if anybody needs some stuff that, you're going to buy anyway, that would be an excellent opportunity. And I'm just now looking at the chat. Um yeah, this chat, I don't know how I can download it, but wow. Excellent, excellent, excellent interactions here. Oh, Matt, I like your photo there. That's very much my face. 5% of the time. All right. Anybody else? Any announcements, things you want to speak to? I know that we are working with the Glasgow Hero Center. There is a face-to-face job fair. And I don't know the date right off the top of my head, but it is like I'm thinking around the 20. It's a Tuesday, somewhere maybe the 23rd, somewhere in there. But what I will do is I will ask Frank. I will send that to Frank, and he can share those with our email list. And anytime that you have a flyer, you have something that you want to share with our community partners, Frank is absolutely the best way to do that. So if you just shoot Frank an email, Frank, can you please share this with the community partner team? Then yes, he will do that. And so, that's an easy way to get your information out. Now, looking at October, are there any topics that you all would like to explore as a group? Are there any ideas that, oh, I'd like to learn more about this? Or if you don't have one now, that's something that you can share with me. But I really like the meetings, focusing on topics that we all can benefit from learning more about. And we're all just sharing information. So if you have suggestions, since we're right at 10:30, I won't extend the meeting further, but absolutely drop me a line. Because we want this to be as beneficial as possible. We're all in this life together. So the better we can make it for each other, for the people we work with, for the people, it can only be a good thing.
Leslie,
So, yes.
before we go, could I say one thing at the risk of making Chad blush? And this is toward goodwill in general. We've been working in collaboration for a young man, just who had nothing. I mean, nothing, nowhere to go. And I have never been disappointed by Goodwill. I hooked them up with Tracy Houchins, and for as long as I've known her, she's never dropped the ball. You give her something, and she does not stop until it's taken care of. And so she and Chad and the whole Goodwill group worked together to get this kid on his feet with a roof over his head and a way to move forward. So thank you, Goodwill, and thank you, Chad. Tell Tracy I said thank you. That's fantastic. And it shows
Appreciate it.
how important community partners are.
And that's
Yes.
what I was going to touch on is the fact that, coming from the workforce board and working under John, this community is really good at coming together. We all stay in our lane, but with us staying in our lane, we're building the pie to help people. And yes, it's echoed because whenever we send someone to career team to get those trainings, those things are happening. I just can't wait for it to happen under one roof. Uh, and then Leslie, you touched on some very important things about public speaking. I think that could be one of the topics for next time
Ooh.
because us as us as nonprofits, we get a lot of our funding when we present what we're doing to the public and to stakeholders. So if we can be top notch and really get our message out clearly to those stakeholders, we're more amped to get what we need, not what we want, but what we need to service
Mhm.
the community. So more tips on public speaking and being able
Mhm.
to deliver our message clearly, I think that would help the entire group. I know it would help me. I'm just saying. Because I get to
Yes.
where I get to a little country comes out, a little hood comes out, but I want to stay streamlined into delivering the message.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that I think that's an excellent idea. I can tell you the topic sort of scares a lot of people, but trust my words and this facial expression, not my typical one. I enjoy teaching public speaking, and I guarantee it will be enjoyable, and you'll be like that. That was not bad at all. That was not bad at all. Because once you sort of can embrace it, yes, it makes a huge difference in so many ways.
Yeah,
So thank you for the suggestion. Absolutely.
I was actually thinking the same thing. I have an opportunity next month and I would love a refresher on public speaking. So I think that's a great idea.
All right. All right. Well, yeah, we'll do that, and it will be enjoyable and beneficial. So yeah, that's it. That sounds like a plan, guys. All right. If there's nothing else, we will conclude. We went just a few minutes over, but you know what? I'm not mad about it. I felt like this was a very good session. I thank you all for your attention, for your time, for your comments, for, the interaction in chat. This is what we want. We all want to work together and help each other so that we can help the people we serve in the most effective way possible. So thank you guys. I will see you in October. Have a good rest of your day.
Into the bloopers you were posting, you've stopped posting those where you and Matt and Brian are in your call. I need those. Those help me.
Well, yes, but we used to do those water coolers. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh. Oh my gosh. And I put those on YouTube, or I put them on Facebook or whatever. I still have people. I have friends that will go back to me singing Eddie Rabbit.
Yeah, but giving those teasers makes people
Yeah.
want to hear the whole conversation. If you
Yes.
notice, that's what like Shannon Sharp and all these podcasters, they'll
Hmm.
send out some teasers from the conversation and then
Yes.
bam, hit you with the whole conversation. So yeah,
Yes.
I look forward to seeing when you make Matt and Brian blush and cringe. It cracks me up.
Well, that's one of my favorite things to do. Get
Yeah.
people just a little bit uncomfortable, but if it's all in good fun.
Oh yeah. Thank you, Leslie.
All right, thanks,
Bye bye.
guys. We'll see you soon.